Hello, everyone. It's June 2021, the OWASP board meeting for that month. And in attendance is myself from the board, Martin, Grant, Jubin, Bill, Owen, and Vandana, so that we have a full quorum. I'll start sharing my screen. And first, item for review or discussion is the previous board meetings. So, oh, it's an MD file. Doesn't actually direct to the page. Yeah. Odd. So just really quick.
Sorry, did you say the minutes doesn't direct?
The minutes, when you actually click on it, it just opens up as a file, as opposed to a web page.
Okay, I'll have that fixed.
Okay, no problem. I mean, I can open that up now, but maybe later. Does anyone have any issues with the previous board meetings, meeting notes? Okay, if not, then I'll bring it up to a vote. Can I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Martin. All right, so in the order where I see folks, so Martin?
Yes.
Jubin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Vandana?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Owen? Hey, Owen, I think you're on mute. It's a yes for myself. We'll get back to Owen and his votes when he's back or when he unmutes. Okay. Okay. On the actually, we can start with the organization KPIs and the report. So, Andrew, do you want to take it from there?
Yep, sure. I'll get you to scroll around as necessary, saves resharing. We've had a healthy increase in the number of members this month. It's over 250 something extra since last month. As you can see, the growth continues, which is fantastic. We attribute this month's growth to the email deactivation program, which we've been talking about. It's more of a cleanup, but that has actually encouraged some people to become formal leaders for their projects and chapters. It's also encouraged many people who are no longer leaders to become members. So this is actually quite pleasing growth. The number of people who come to our website, again, increases, which is fantastic. The number of chapter meetings has gone down, and it was sort of expected after the reactivation program came to an end. The number of RSCPs is also down as similarly, but we're still having a healthy number of meetings, 61 meetings in a month where we did nothing to really promote chapter activity is a very healthy number, and I'm quite pleased. Anything over 50 is good as far as I'm concerned, because that's about 1/4 of all chapters and meeting every month, which is great. The number of our financials, I will have to leave to Tom. Do you want me to hand off to Tom now for the finance report, or would you like me to continue with the executive director report?
Let's go with the executive director report and then carry on to more.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I'm Tom.
So scroll down. Keep going. Okay. The chapter reactivation program, I took some action to finish it up. Lisa and Dawn helped at the very end. We have a tool now that can detect status very quickly. This will become a, with a little bit of effort, this will become a tool that chapter leaders can learn about what their chapter is up to, but it also gives us indications of where links are stale or old. We will probably just go and fix those. The work that we did with the NIST Executive Order Workshop, I was unhappy that we did not get selected to speak. However, I did make a nuisance of myself in the chat. Anyone who was sort of attending those couple of days knows that I was one of the more active participants. We didn't get what we wanted, but we did get involved in the SSDF, which is the Secure Development Lifecycle Framework working group. I have not had any response to any further actions there. I don't think they've met. I will continue to engage. I think we need to really get in there and assist. The corporate membership program, we did discuss it last Saturday. I don't know that we need to discuss it today. I will get you a more formal draft as we get closer to the end. I'm going to get a proper flyer done and a proper web page done. We have a quote for that from Hugo. It's very, very cost effective. Then we'll be ready to go to market. I need to get to the lawyers to get a license agreement ready because we don't have one of those right now. And that will help with the trademark program too. Kelly and I worked last month on the event training splits. We've been talking about it for some months, but we finally came to an end. I do want to socialize that with the trainers, and we will be adhering to that once we go with the new events policy. So we've got a bit of a deadline there. The splits themselves are not a voting package. They are literally what the foundation pays trainers. It does require a bit of an update to the speakers agreement, but that doesn't form part of the policy. So we will socialize that with everybody and provide some feedback. Talking about that, the events policy is now in draft and open for comments. Please do. I merged it so it's easier to make comments. We have engaged Virtual's VP of Marketing to develop a strategic marketing plan. The goal is for us to execute that plan. We do need to have a goal, a calendar, and who we're trying to reach. We don't have a lot of that in place at the moment. We've never had that in place. So it's not just about promotions. I think a lot of people confuse promotion with marketing. It is not the same. I'm no good at, I can do promotions in my sleep, but it's not working. We need to get more. We need to get better at it. And this is what this is about. I would encourage the board to table the events committee old business to next month. We did talk about this on the weekend, last weekend. We do need at least 1 or 2 members to come forward. We've got one person who's very interested, but without the third, or, second or third, we don't have in a committee. We have been meeting with the AppSec Kelly organisers. Kelly has actually met with them yesterday. There might be an update there if you wish to talk about that. I would encourage you to, when the time comes, we're going to try and figure out a better way, a smarter way of actually getting the AppSec Kelly funded instead of just taking it from our own residual funds. We are working with them as hard as we can. We do want an event early next year. If it comes to fruition, I might talk to you guys about maybe doing some early year board travel. However, we don't have a lot of money, so please, maybe Dublin's the best time to meet first next year. The events policy is in draft. The project policy is in review. You can actually go and review that. It's essentially the same as the chapter policy with some project-specific issues in there about how to fork and leave. And also the updated expense policy is now in draft and ready for review. I announced that last night, so that is actually finished. The last part of the finance reform that does not exist right now, because it was a part of the old expenses policy and the old speakers agreement, is the travel policy. We need it, we don't have one. I will be writing that very shortly. It'll be based around what we've done in the past. It won't be a surprise to anybody, but it will actually contain discouragements to encourage local skill development. We are a global organization, and the idea that we've only got a few people who are skilled enough to do things at OWASP is ridiculous. I want to encourage local skill development across the world. I do not want to encourage travel. So I really want to get travel to the point of view of necessary travel and scholarships, which advance our mission. I would encourage, we've obviously met, which is fantastic. The 2022 operating plan, I'm asking for a delay. We are required by policy to present that to you in September. I do think that is a little bit early for 2022. I do want to get it to you for the November board meeting. If you're okay with that, I'd prefer to spend time with you developing the operating plan properly with an appropriate budget. I think it's going to be much better than rushing through what remains of the operating plan from last year and then having to put more of it back onto the next year's plan. And so that is my update. Any questions?
Okay. I do have 2 questions, but actually I should probably reserve my questions as chair to the rest of after the rest of the board had their say. So Owen, Bill, Jubin, Martin, does anyone have any questions on the executive summary?
Andrew, you mentioned we should find a smarter way to see how we can fund Upside Cali. I think you mean that more general, like we need to find a better way to fund these larger regional conferences so that we don't hit our reserves.
Yeah, so the way that the new events policy does it is it has a seed fund, which the board will fund once per year. It's not funded this year. So therefore we'll need to go out to sponsors who would normally support the event. We've always had healthy support from the sponsorship community, from vendors who want to actually talk to people. This is an in-person event by the looks of things. I think they'll be very happy to go back to in-person events. I think they can actually get value out of it. If we can fund our deposits from sponsor income, then that means that we don't have to find money behind the couch to get it happening. I just think we've never done that before. And we would definitely prefer it if we had the money aside. However, I don't want to pass up the opportunity of running AppSec Cali just because we weren't thinking out of the box.
Is someone?
Owen?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, June.
Sorry.
No, finish this.
Yeah, just a quick question. Is someone looking at reaching out to our sponsors to see if they want to provide that seed money to fund Upside Cali?
Yeah, I've asked Kelly to look at that. I don't know. She's got a lot of things on her plate right now. Alana's just come back. Can you give us a few days and we'll find this out. We've already been obtaining hotel and Annenberg house quotes. We are progressing from our side. We are trying to work out what our costs would be to run the registration desk and what would the training track look like. So we are progressing this.
I had a call real fast to just jump in with Haral and Martine yesterday afternoon, Alana and I, and they're on board they're helping also to look for other venues, cheaper venues in the area. They don't think that they're going to find any, but they are also looking. And Jubin, I had suggested that if there's any regards to the event policy, I know that they usually include membership with their registrations, and that is a no-no in the policy. So if there's anything that they don't agree with in the policy, that they come to you, and then you can bring it to the board for a vote if they want to get an exemption.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a meeting coming out with her all. So
and they both were okay. They were not pushing back about moving the location of the venue. Our team was definitely on board, especially with the trainings. He said he feels like, holding them perhaps at a hotel or another venue for the trainings is a good idea, because they did struggle with internet problems and a lot of the catering had to be brought in. You're locked into their caterers. So there's definitely ways that we can save money and cut back and still put on a successful event. So they definitely seem to be on board. We're going to meet again next week, see where we're both at. We've got both sides have takeaways that we've got to look into. But I feel like there was no pushback, I should say. So good. Yeah.
sorry, I'm just taking some notes here. Thanks.
Hey, Kelly, this is Tom. Would it help if I asked our events team if they had some options in the area?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see if they come back, what they've got in the area.
Just suggestions that you can compare.
Other places, yeah, that's fine too.
Okay.
The more, and I said to Haral, because he wasn't opposed to moving it, but he didn't think that we were going to find a cheaper location. And I said, well, that's okay, but we need to have quotes so we can come back to the board, to Andrew, and say like, okay, we did our due diligence, we looked, here's the quotes we received, this is Annenberg, and weigh them that way. So
yeah, I'll send a note to our VP and just ask for some options, and then you guys can do the site selection.
Sure, yeah,
They do a lot of events in and around the area, so maybe they might know something.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I did remind them, I said, although we all love the venue, most likely the atmosphere of AppSec Cali, like we have to remember that people are there for a conference, not for the venue. So
Yeah.
they, they seemed to understand and they seemed on board. Like I said, there was no pushback. So hopefully it'll go as smooth as it did yesterday.
Okay. And Owen, did you have something to bring up?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say I agree with Andrew. Like we do need to find a different way. We've been talking about this for a long time that we can't rely on conferences to fund OWASP. We need to get a different source of income. So, like, I guess for AppSec Cali, seeing as it's the first conference of the year, definitely say looking for sponsorships to seed it. But going forward in the foundation as a whole, we need to definitely get other sources of income other than like say sponsorship or conferences. I think we rely on them too heavily, and we've definitely been impacted a significant amount over COVID, as have the majority of our sponsors and so on.
So the new events policy actually has not only a seed fund, but also a way for the profits from the net splits to be put aside at 50% until there's actually enough money to fund it year on year. So in time, most conferences will take 2 to 3 years to fund themselves, and then we won't ever need to seed them again. But some conferences like AppSec Cali might be able to fund themselves within 1 year of operating. That way, we're not relying upon, the funds coming back to us. We're really reducing the requirement that the event is so profitable in future years, but we are requiring that events are profitable every time. That way, the amount of money can be held for the conference year on year. So Snowfrog, LostCon, AppSec Cali, others, they aren't dragging down the pulling down the seed fund, which creates more events. It creates more opportunities for more events all over the world, which is what we need.
And does
We've never earned a.
Sorry, Andrew. Does that holding on to that seed fund? Does that impact, say, bookkeeping in a similar way that, say, the chapter and project funds used to impact it, so that it would have to be manually kept separate?
It is already separate. So the other part of the problem is that, yes, it is a problem if it was allowed to accrue. This is not allowed to accrue. This is essentially to pay for next year's bookings. That's it. Once they've got to that, they've got a net profit, and they need to decide what they're going to do with that net profit.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
We don't have chat money or conference income. So I concur with Owen that this is a bookkeeping question, because eventually it's all OWASP money, and it's something you set aside. So it's a bookkeeping exercise rather than saying they have to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So then you have to see, is it chapter money or is it a conference something different?
It is a separate category. It always has been, but we've always in the past, most people, even event organizers, don't really realize this, but we funded the large conferences from general revenue. And so there was always this unofficial way that we made this happen. This just formalizes that unofficial way, and they become their own profit and loss in a formal session. So I would definitely suggest having a read of the events policy. It's very similar to the previous one, but it discusses how this works.
To answer Owen and Martin's question, as far as the bookkeeping goes, it will be much simpler to deal with that and set it up as a liability on the books for future, for future conferences. And, we have a money market account. Actually, we have two. They don't cost us anything. We can segregate those funds to be used in the next year for down payments. So it will be a simpler way than the current way chapters are handled.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that it hasn't been, because we did this conference for years. We've seeded them, funded them for years, so that they are not in the forecast for next year. I thought it would be for conference seeding money, it would be in the annual budget, right?
So it's in the budget, Martin. So just as an example, say California, the budget was $500,000 for expenses. Okay. So we're in November, we're paying out, say, 250 of that. We recognize the whole 500 in expenses in the month that it happened. So it was being done internally. What Andrew's talking about is making it a little more formal and being able to see it on the balance sheet.
Yep.
We didn't do it.
Also, to your specific question, I did reach out to the AppSec Cali organizers last year and asked them if they wanted to be on the, run an event in 2022. They said, no, we're good, thanks. And I knew that may not stay, but unfortunately, because I didn't have a budget request, LostCon, on the other hand, has a budget request. They're in the actual budget formally. Okay. Yeah. Whereas AppSec Cali, we absolutely need to think out of the box. We don't have any money set aside for them.
Okay. I did have two separate questions. Oh, by the way, a third one. Owen, do you approve the minutes of meeting just for bookkeeping?
I do. Apologies.
Okay.
My solicitor, just as the vote was about to start and I had to take the call, sorry.
No worries. All right, so Andrew, I had two questions. The first one is with regards to OWASP elections.
Mm-hmm.
So for the board elections, are we still on schedule with that process? Do we have any delays or any issues with regard to it?
I don't believe so. Dawn is on the call. Dawn, do you have any updates on the election process? I mean, we haven't actually started the timeline yet.
Yeah, we haven't started timeline. Let me double check the exact date for you. Hold on 1 second. Okay.
There is no, as far as I'm aware, there's no issues. We've got good membership. We've got an active community. I think we'll have a really interesting board election this year. We've got 4 positions this year. So I really do think it's going to be a very active election. I look forward to seeing the result.
Okay. With regards to AppSec Cali, would one option also be, sorry, Dawn, would one of the options be fundraising, like trying to put up a fundraising event like on YouTube now, because we've activated that capability. You can now select OWASP as one fundraising campaign and set up events with that turned on.
People with over 200,000 subscribers earn around $250 to $1,000 a month. I don't think this is going to pay for AppSec Cali. I think we need to go to the actual sponsors. We've always earned a significant sum from sponsors. It won't be as much as in previous years. I do think we'll probably find enough sponsors to cover the actual deposits as long as we're frugal. But it's not a bad idea. We should be absolutely fundraising. I don't think we should not do fundraising. I think we should do fundraising. What I'm actually saying is I don't think it'll pay for the deposits.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, Dawn, you were saying?
Sorry, my headset went wacky.
She's put it in the chat, Sharif.
Yeah.
August 15th.
Okay.
There might
Thanks,
be, so I just, Sharif, one thing, there might be, I'll run the reports of who's members and all that, probably start running report like a month before. And I won't know till then if there's anything that I need to clarify, but it'll all get fixed before that.
Okay. And sorry, Vandana, I see your hand up.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, here we were talking about fundraising through YouTube. And we have an event coming up in July. So it's a developer summit that we're talking about. We can have that at that summit also, which is going to run for 8 hours. Now with the CFP is CFP is open, I'm going to reach out to each of you separately and we'll connect with you. And I would need help from the staff or from you or from anyone who can help me in setting up that fundraising from there. I can set up there itself. Yeah, so I don't know if we've tried it. I think we might want to do a mini event prior to it. Right. However, yes, please go for it, and anyone can turn it on. The great thing about this now is anyone in the community, a chapter leader, a project leader, or anyone, you know, off the street can select OWASP from the fundraiser and just run a YouTube fundraising campaign for OWASP. So it doesn't even need to be us, it's self-service. Anyone on the planet can turn that on. So as long as you're streaming through YouTube, that can be turned on as a fundraising event. In fact, multiple streamers and channels can fundraise the same event at the same time. So that makes it even more powerful.
Wow. I think, yeah, then let's try it before the event starts so that we can start seeing how it works and how are the things that we have to manage. I'm planning
Okay.
it to stream via StreamYard. So we'll say figure out the technology afterwards for sure. I'll reach out.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'm up for that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tom, I think now we can go through the finance. There's no new issues, sort of items anyway. So I'm going to stop sharing so that allows you to be a.
Host.
Oh, Andrew, can you allow him as a co-host so that he can share his screen?
He's got it.
He did already. So,
Okay.
hi, everybody. I'm going to apologize again. It was my mistake thinking the board meeting was next Tuesday, that it should be the 4th. So the team closed the books yesterday. So I've got everything set. As you can see, when we look at the balance sheet, we're still over $1 million in revenue. In cash, which equates to about 12 months of reserve. If you take out the small amount of accounts payable we have and the PPP loan that we're still waiting for the forgiveness, which can take 6 to 7 months, I'm told, that takes it down to about 11 months worth of reserve. So we're, by all measures, the average is about 6 months. So we're doing well. When you look at our P&L, and we are ahead in revenue for the month, the quarter, and the year to date, and it's being driven mostly by membership and conference income. Andrew asked me to do a deep dive for the June close, which I will. So I need to make sure that everything's being deferred properly. So those numbers might change a little bit, but we're still under in expenses year to date. The reason we're over for the month and the quarter is we got 2 bills for meetup, April and May, which put us over a little bit. Other than that, everything else is more or less holding to budget, and we're doing better than last year, although we all know what last year was, so that's not a great comparison, but we are doing better. For the June close, I will be looking at every month and making sure that through June, on an accrual basis, we're exactly where we need to be. So with that, I'll take any questions that you guys might have.
The PPP loan, is that including, that doesn't include the other small business loan that we were trying to get as well?
Correct. And Sharif, your payments in the mail is being the straight guy for me, because that's the next piece of information I have for you all. I was actually able to talk to an attorney at the Small Business Association last Friday for one of my other clients, and they gave me an email address. I'm not sure why they don't put it out, but I sent in a note and we got a response back about an hour ago, Andrew, what they actually want from us. So the 3 things they're looking for is 1, a copy of our 2019 tax return, not a problem. They sent a form to request that tax return from the IRS, but we don't need it because we already have it. I'm also going to send them a copy of our audited financials for 2019 because they look very good, and again, they're audited. The third piece is they need some information from you, Andrew, and I'll work with you on it, like a copy of your passport. So we should be able to get that done and completed this week for the 150 for the EIDL loan. And they kicked in another year. So if we get the loan this year, it's not, no interest or payments are due for an entire year. And what I mean by that is my other clients got some last year. They don't make a payment this year. They're not making a payment till next year. So by all indications, it's, it's a really good program. And with that, we will have it and set it aside to use as seed money for AppSec Cali at this point. So, that's very good. And the PPP that we did take, it's taken 6 or 7 months. We filed in we file in April or May. So we gave them all the appropriate paperwork. We can show them where we had, a loss, and that all of it was exhausted for payroll, which is what it was intended for. So I'm not expecting any issues. It just takes a long time for that to go through the system.
Thank you. And you took the words right out of my mouth of why I brought this up is paying also the funds for AppSec Cali as well. We're finding a way. That doesn't stop us. Sorry?
I said, it's always good when you and I are on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, that was brought up before, is that would help us with some of our expenses that we usually deal with at the beginning of the year. So that's also one of the reasons why I was waiting for. But the amounts are still the same, right? It's not that we can get a better, it's more of the payments and the interest fee is extended, but not the amount that we can ask for, or it's not.
Here's the issue with that. If we take 150 or less, there's no personal guarantees.
150, okay.
If you take more than that, then somebody's going to have to sign personally, and I wouldn't recommend anybody on the board doing that. So
okay.
Again, I had one client that took 150 last year. They had a brick and mortar office that they were paying for. They paid off their lease, which they were paying $8,000 a month for. They paid it off. Now they're paying $800 a month for the next 30 years. So it's at the interest rate, it's you can't get that interest rate or those terms from any other financial institution that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where we are. Like I said, we're doing well, against our budget. The revenue's holding, which is always a good sign compared to what we budgeted. And the expenses are under.
Yeah. Okay, does anyone else have any questions there?
So Andrew, I'm going to send you and I'll send to Vandana and Sharif and Grant again. I noticed a couple small things in the narrative. So the one I sent you, I'll be sending another one shortly with the final.
Okay, I'll update the agenda with the narrative and the financial file after the meeting.
Okay.
I'll wait for the updated version from you.
Yep.
Thanks, Tom.
No problem.
Okay.
Sorry, Sharif, I did have one more thing. So one more small piece of good news. So there is also the ability to try and get it. It's called the employee retention credit. I think I mentioned it before. One of the CPA firms that we work with has started a process where they will figure out the calculation and they will file the 941X, but you can get up to $10,000 to $12,000 an employee. Right now, they're telling me that it's running 2 to 3 hours at $150 an hour. So I'm getting some more information from them. But if that turns out to be the case and we can do it and I can figure out how much we'll gain as far as employer taxes to the federal government versus what it costs them to actually do it for us, I may come back with that, because that could be a fairly significant number if it turns out to be 10,000 times our 6 employees.
Yeah, I was about to ask you to run that number by me again. Yes, 60,000 would be nice. Good.
Right. If we're only paying, $500 per employee to get it done, seems to be a fairly good investment. But I'll have information on the next board meeting for that, because it goes through the end of this year.
Okay. So as long as we don't miss any of the dates, it sounds good. Okay. With that in mind, we don't have any new issues, and I don't believe we have any discussion topics.
Let me have a quick look.
No, we do. We do have a few discussion topics. Yeah, Andrew, did you want to cover any of those?
Yeah, just let me go to the agenda. We'll just have a quick look. I think you, as a board, are required to table the old business. I can't just ask you to do that. It needs to go to July, and we'll continue to try and get that event committee up. The email cleanup will arrange a separate meeting. I was sort of hoping to get it done today because our timelines are a bit tight, but and we've discussed the corporate membership on Saturday, so we don't need to do that. I also talked about the trademark program progress on Saturday in relation to the fact that it's tied up in getting the corporate membership program done. So fundamentally, there is a trademark strategy approved last year. I sort of need to adhere to the elements of that, but we've already tried enforcement and it didn't work. It cost us a lot of money. Yes, it got the person to stop using our marks, so yay, but we used a sledgehammer to crack a nut, and I think we don't want to do that every time we come across someone using our mark wrong. Let's get the other parts of the program, the positive parts of it working first, and then get into the enforcement program later this year. So I do need to actually go back and have a revisit to the strategy approved last year, the board approved last year. But yeah, corporate membership is, we're going to get a draft for you and we'll bring that to you very shortly.
Andrew?
Okay.
Yes. Man, there's one point, the discussion on corporate membership, at the end it says this is an operational matter, but if I'm not mistaken, membership is not, it's strategic, or actually requires by bylaw the board assumption, so it's not an operational matter.
We're not requiring any bylaw or policy changes. The only thing we're doing is changing the price, and we've been given a budget last year. Now, I'm more than happy to pass it by you because, quite frankly, you have the connections that we're sort of relying upon, and I needed to get out there and get more corporate members. So I want to make sure that the board is happy with it. Do we need a vote? I don't think we do, but it's up to you.
Change the layout, what you have as a membership, then you need to know. So it's not corporate sponsorship, it's corporate membership, and the membership change on membership benefits would require, if I'm not mistaken, in the bylaws.
So in the past, Martin, the distinction between sponsorship, corporate sponsorship, and corporate membership has been blurred. The membership benefits covered by corporate membership are not changing. What Andrew is proposing to change is the sponsorship aspect of that and the pricing.
So the first one?
So what?
Something and pricing. What was the first one you said?
The benefits with sponsorship and pricing. So the sponsors, right?
Benefits depends on, if the benefit is not money but something else, then so if it you have the only thing I ask is look in the bylaws if nothing's changed that is actually requested by bylaw. There's just saying it's operated by membership. It's
yeah. So as a meeting note, like follow-up item, Andrew, just double check that the board doesn't need to vote on it, and if that's the case, I can take a look at the bylaws as well. If the answer is no, then no. If not, then it can be a vote. If it needs to be done between now and the board meeting, since I've worked on it with you, I'm happy to sponsor it. If I can get a second, we can run it through an e-vote if that's okay.
Because when you look like 2 lines above the fourth bullet point, it says discussion on current bylaws and how they should impact the design of the new program. I think that's kind of contradiction to say that it's operational. But okay.
We'll take a look.
Who's
yeah,
second?
sorry, Andrew.
Sorry, Sharif, who seconded it?
No, we're not seconding it now or so forth. We're just discussing it right now. If it needs a vote,
Okay.
then we might do it online. That's fine, Don. Okay, so before we conclude, I think this was copied and pasted from the last board meeting. So Grant, since you are the sponsor, would you like to postpone the motion to table, essentially the motion to approve the events committee?
Yeah, I'd like to table this motion, please.
Okay, no second. Okay, if that is all, then I'll motion to adjourn the board meeting.
Second.
Third.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Stop recording.
Thank you.
Bye.